You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Hey, I'm your host, Geoffrey D. Calhoun, and I'd love it if you join our community at thesuccessfulscreenwriter.com. You'll get access to seminars, workshops, Oscar-nominated screenplays, and even open writing assignments from producers. Get all the tools, resources, and support you need to launch your screenwriting career for free. Now, on to our show. Okay, welcome to the podcast. We have on an awesome guest today. This segment is for a character database, and today we're going to be talking with FBI Special Agent Jack Schafer. He is the author of The Like Switch and The Truth Detector. Jack, thanks for being on the show.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
All right, so for this database, we're going to really kind of dive into what you did and the type of characteristics that an FBI Special Agent has, and any kind of anecdotal stories you have for us. That way we can really help build out this type of special agent character. So what exactly was your profession at the FBI?
Actually, I did several things. I began my career working crimes on the Indian reservation, primarily homicides.
Okay.
And then I became a pilot, and I flew for the Bureau for several years.
Wow.
And then I went to language school and learned Korean, and then went to Los Angeles to work espionage and counter-espionage. And I worked civil rights or skinheads for a while. And then my last 7 years of my career, I spent as a behavioral analyst with the FBI.
Wow.
And I'm sure people are interested in that, because what you see on TV, that group is called the Behavioral Analysis Unit.
Okay.
And they're a little bit different than what we do. The Behavioral Analysis Unit goes to crime scenes.
Yeah.
And they try to figure out who did it. They have an unknown suspect they're trying to flesh out by the artifacts and evidence at the crime scene.
Okay.
We in the behavioral analysis program, we typically have a subject or suspect.
Okay.
And what we try to do is gather as much information about that person and find weaknesses in their personalities and vulnerabilities. And then we would construct strategies based on those vulnerabilities to get that person to do, I guess I could say, do the morally correct thing.
So are you kind of like building a profile of the suspect?
Yes. And it's interesting because, in a way, when you write, you have to take that whole person's personality and what they may do and what they might do and construct a kind of a profile of them. And that's
right.
Exactly what we did in the FBI. So I spent 7 years just developing profiles of people.
That's
and
amazing.
What they do.
And really studying kind of the psychology of an individual.
Right. Getting deep. Well, it's not only a surface thing. We go pretty deep into their personality. How do they react under stress? How do they react to new situations? How are they going to react to this personality coming in their life? How do we bring that person in and make it look natural?
Yeah.
When we do undercover cases, we also have to include a lot of dialogue. What dialogue would make sense to this person? How do we, interject our lives into their lives using the things that they have in common, that we can find in common?
Are there templates that you're using to be able to, infiltrate someone's life?
Just human nature.
Yeah.
I've made it my lifelong goal to study human nature. And the people on the BAP team, we all do the same thing. So I don't think there's a template other than human behavior, basic human behavior. And that rarely changes, even cross-culturally.
Oh, that's interesting. So it can be actually quite universal.
Yeah. So the analogy I like to use is I get people to develop the core of human behaviors, and that's like a cake.
Okay.
And then what you got to do is spread the culturally specific frosting around those human behaviors. So what you're doing is you're developing a raw human being.
Okay.
And then you're going to take that human being and place it into a culture. And then that's when you put that frosting on the cake for that culturally specific frosting. But the basic core human behaviors are the same.
That's interesting. And so this helps you kind of track down any, as you would say, kind of counter espionage?
Spies, basically,
Okay.
and terrorists.
And are you creating a character when you're infiltrating yourself? So like did you go undercover?
No, I did not go undercover myself. I directed.
Okay.
I was the director of the theater.
Okay. So you had agents working under you.
Right. And so what we would do is we would have a scenario that we wanted to pick. We'd have to say, okay, what kind of agent would click with this suspect or subject? And so then we would go through a lot of dry runs. We would set up a script. We would do rehearsals, and then we would actually go live.
That's not, you never see that on TV or in any films ever. You know, it always seems like it's on the spot, but the sheer fact that you're essentially doing like a table read and
Yes.
and practicing it is fascinating.
So I look at it as a theater of the interview, a theater of espionage, a theater of terrorism, and everything you put on that theater. I'm the director, so anything that's on that stage, I'm responsible for. It has to have meaning. It has to have purpose. It has to drive us toward our end goal or objective.
Except the stakes are huge. I mean, we're talking people's lives can be a danger here.
Yes, sir. And that's why we do a lot of dry runs. That's why we practice. That's why we take our time and make sure we get it right.
Well, let's talk about the people that work in your industry, work in your specialty, worked underneath, worked with you as you were their director. What type of education do agents tend to have that leads them into this type of a work?
Most of the agents have advanced degrees in psychology.
Okay.
So I came into the behavioral analysis unit, and I only had a master's degree in psychology, and they encouraged me to go back and get my PhD in psychology.
Really?
To better enhance my ability in the behavioral analysis unit. So I did that.
Do you find that you tend to be more extroverted then?
I'm very extroverted.
Okay. That's what I'm curious.
Even when I'm depressed, I'm extroverted. People don't even know I'm depressed because I'm so extroverted.
And is that kind of a trait of agents that are in your field? They tend to be more outgoing?
Yeah, because we have to be able to engage so many people in so many fields.
Okay.
We have to be able to sit down and just talk to people.
Yeah.
Introverts can do it. They can be trained to do it. But what happens is they have to kind of push themselves to jump into the pool.
Right.
We just like Yahoo, we jump into the pool and splash around.
So it's fascinating to me that you said that even if you're sad, you're still extroverted and people can't tell that you're depressed. What are some, I mean, talking as a human here, what are some factors that your depression comes through, or someone similar to yourself?
Well, what do you mean?
Well,
if depressed maybe once, twice a year.
So walk me through that though. If you're not slumping in the corner.
No. What typically happens is after I achieve a goal, like if I'm writing a book,
okay,
and you write, and as soon as the book comes out, it's like, yeah, so what? And I get a little depressed.
Yeah.
And then what that is your body works so hard to achieve a goal, and then when you finally achieve it, your body has to say, slow down, relax, rest up, recharge your batteries, and then move forward.
Did you find this happening after you had big moments within your career?
Oh, yeah. After I did a big case, I caught a spy. It took us months and months to set it up, and rehearsals and all kinds of things. And then all of a sudden you catch the spy and you go like, oh, well.
Because you had been working so hard and probably feeling that excitement about getting ready for that makes sense.
And then all of a sudden I mope around and everybody says, you should be really excited because it worked. And I said, yeah, okay, fine. Let's just rest here. And I don't want to talk about it anymore. And then after a week or so, then you're like, where's my next assignment? Let me get going again. And so you build up again until you achieve something.
That's fascinating.
I don't know if a lot of people experience it, but I think it's a pretty common phenomenon after you write a book or a screenplay and you've finally accomplished it and you've sold it.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I'm done.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I think that's good to know that. It's good to see that. So
it's normal, by the way.
There's no judgment here, Jack.
I'm just saying it's normal.
No, but think about it. When you see these moments in television or film where the character, the superhero or the special agent wins, we don't see the down moment, right? They skip over it. So it's good. I like to be able to get these human moments, so that people, when they're creating these characters, they can, well, yeah, that's a great idea. I should show them down after the big win to give them that moment of humanity. I think it's important. So, were you recruited out of college, or did you somehow apply yourself to be in the FBI?
I had no desire to be in the FBI. Okay. And I just happened to stumble onto it. I had no desire. I was a police officer before I was in the FBI. I had no desire to be a police officer. And I'll tell you the quick story. A friend of mine said, let's go out and have a beer. I said, okay. And he said, before we go to the bar, I want to stop at the police department and fill out an application for a police officer because I want to be a police officer. I said, okay. So we get there. He fills out the application and fills it out on the spot. I went, what am I going to do while you're filling that application out? I said, just shut up and get an application and fill it out. Keep yourself busy. So I said, all right. So I filled it out. We turned them in right there on the spot. And it turns out I got the job. He didn't.
That's wild.
And then when I was filling up my cruiser, I talked to one of my friends and I said, well, I'll see you tomorrow night. He said, no, you won't. I just joined the FBI. He says, they're hiring. Why don't you put in for an application? I said, all right. And I did.
Totally random. And look at you.
Yeah. I think I believe in divine providence. So I think we make up our plans, but God kind of directs our steps.
Well, I love the fact that you're open to it. I mean, I think a lot of people would say wouldn't even bother. And you're like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And then you end up being a director of special agents.
Well, I'm not a director. What I like to say, director is a management position in the FBI. What I do is when I do undercover operations, I see myself as a director of the play.
No, I understand. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you still
I don't want anybody mistaking me for a director in the FBI.
Well, you still end up as a special agent.
Yes.
Yeah, that works for me. So who do you think, what kind of person is best suited to be an FBI agent, and what kind of special agent, what kind of person is not suited for the job?
Well, it depends on what job you want in the FBI. Like we have white collar investigators, and those people should be introverts.
Okay.
They like to be alone. They should be people that look at details, that we call them sensors. They like to take in things by their five senses and make sense of the numbers and bring the paperwork in and evaluate things. And you have to have a technical person or somebody that thinks analytically. And then you have to have somebody that kind of closes things out very easily. Now, for the espionage, if we're out spy hunting, you want a completely different person. You want an extrovert. You want somebody that can get out and meet people and talk to people, develop sources. You need somebody that's an intuitor, somebody that can think strategy and see a bunch of points in a case and say, that's a spy. Where the accountant would look at it and say, I see nothing but dots over there.
Yeah.
And an intuitor says, no, that's a spy. And then you need somebody that's also a thinker, and you need somebody that's more spontaneous and more open to new ideas and constantly looking for additional information. So there's room for all personalities inside the FBI.
That's amazing. Well, that's awesome. What is your biggest pet peeve with your career?
People think it's easy.
Walk me through that.
Well, I catch a spy. They go like, well, so what? Well, like, you know how much energy it takes to develop a plan, to find a spy, develop a plan, and then either get that person to, what we like to do is double them back. So we'll catch them and say, now we want you to work for us against your country.
Oh, wow.
That's called a double agent. And then we run false flags where we pretend we're from another country and we talk to somebody who thinks we're from another country and they sell us classified information when in fact they're selling it to the FBI.
That's amazing.
So what we have to do is develop ways. And in fact, I'll detail something very quickly that really helped us, and it may help screenwriters.
Yeah.
That is, Joe Navarro and I were behavioral analysts, and we discovered that all human relationships have 4 common elements. And we arranged it into a algebraic formula.
Really?
And that was proximity, frequency, duration, and intensity. And the algebraic formula would be the personal relationship index equals proximity times the function of frequency plus duration times intensity. And we developed that so we can integrate undercover agents into people's lives. And what that does is it shows this is how people integrate into people's lives. In other words, we just want to be proximal to that person. We just want to be with that person. We don't necessarily have to talk to them, because what proximity does, it predisposes us to mutually like one another. And then we are frequently with that person. And then you gradually add duration to the frequency. And then you add intensity. And this is the most important part. So you want to send nonverbal signals that say, I'm your friend. And the top 3 are eyebrow flashes. So it's like quick up and down moving of the eyebrow.
That's amazing.
I mean, you laugh at me, but you will now discover, once you know this, when people approach each other, it's a long distance friend signal. So we approach each other, we go, they don't use the noise, but
they just flash the eyebrows.
They just flash the eyebrows. That's a teaching thing. So what that does is says, I'm not a threat, you're not a threat. The second thing we do is we tilt our head either to the left or to the right. We expose our carotid artery, which means I don't fear you hurting me. And I'll tell you, if you have any dogs, if anybody has a dog, what do the dogs do when you come in? They tilt their head.
Yeah.
And what they do is then they'll flip over on their stomach or their back, exposing their stomach, which is the most vulnerable part of their body. So they're telling you, I'm not a threat.
Yeah.
So it works that way. And the last thing you want to do is smile. And when you smile, you release endorphins. And the key thing about that is endorphins make you feel good about you. And if you make somebody feel good about themselves, they're going to like you.
That's amazing.
And you can fake a smile, make sure the crow's feet are working, and you lift your cheek, your cheeks up a little bit.
Right.
Crow's feet. So you can actually fake it.
Yeah.
And if you want to intensify that relationship further, you use extended eye contact.
Wow.
So back to the dog thing. Anybody who has a dog, the dog will sit there and look at you and just stare at you like deep in your eyes. And people are like, that dog's looking into my soul. No, what that dog is doing, he is forcing you to look into his eyes. And when when there's mutual gaze, you release oxytocin. It's a hormone, oxytocin.
Yeah.
That's called a bonding drug. So what that dog is doing is bonding with you. And then he's forcing you to look into his eyes. So you're releasing endorphins. Or oxytocin. So that creates that bond with your animal. And you say, well, how do dogs figure that out? Well, they have to eat. They have to play. They have to go out. They have to get rub downs, and they have to get all that good stuff that owners give them. That's how they create that bond to ensure that their needs are met.
No, I think that's fascinating. I knew that, and that's actually an evolution between dogs and people over time. And they did studies and they said the cats don't do it, but dogs do.
Dogs do.
We've evolved together, which I think is so fascinating. You're a fountain of knowledge, Jack. This is amazing.
But I think that that whole relationship index will help writers get characters to meet one another, and it looks very humanist, very realistic. Why? Because we thin sliced how people make friends with one another, how relationships are developed, how relationships are maintained, and it is realistic. Why do I know it's realistic? Because we take undercover people, insert them into people's lives, and they don't even know that that person's a danger, because we always have the target come to the undercover agent. That's our goal. So if I'm going to recruit you, you're going to come to me, but I'm going to make myself available by proximity, duration, intensity, and then I'm going to add some intensifiers, maybe an eyebrow flash, a smile, a head tilt. And then you say, oh, that guy's friendly, and you're going to come to me. And if you come to me, if there's any doubt in whether or not I'm an undercover agent, you're going to say, well, I went to him. I initiated this conversation or the friendship. He didn't.
Yeah. Is there ever a risk of, since you're essentially creating a relationship, is there ever a risk of getting too close to who you're targeting?
Yeah. In fact, tell you a quick story. Some skinheads killed some African Americans to earn lightning bolts for their tattoo collection.
Okay.
And I started using the personal relationship index. I just started visiting them, and I talked to them about anything but the crimes.
Okay.
So I developed a relationship with these white supremacists. And then when they got arrested for murder, and they were eventually sent away for life, while they were in court, they tried to kill me.
Wow.
And the other prosecutor, and they were angry. They tried twice and they failed twice. And so I went back and talked to them. I said, why do you want to kill me? Because I put you in jail? They go, no, not that. The guy says, no, not that. He says, you told me you were going to put me in jail long ago. That's part of your job. I'm just angry because you betrayed me, because I thought you were my friend.
Wow.
See how that works? So can you get, well, in that case, he got a little too close.
Right. But an agent could potentially get too close.
Yes, same thing. And it's called, we call it going native, where they just kind of identify with the bad guy.
And then you pull them out, or what?
Yeah, well, you got to pull them out. Absolutely. But it's just a fun psychological, and that's why I think when I write my stories, I try to bring in those realistic tendencies of human beings.
Yeah.
And it looks real because that's the way real people develop relationships.
No, I think this index you've created is absolutely amazing. And I will be using that. I'll be flashing some eyebrows.
It's well, you'll see it and go like,
oh yeah, I'm keeping an eye out now. See. All right.
Go ahead.
Well, now, so this is obviously a stressful job. What do you do to blow off steam?
I exercise.
Okay, exercise heavily.
Right now, I'm retired, and I'm a professor at Western Illinois University teaching law enforcement. So there's really not a lot of stress there.
Oh,
but I still exercise. What?
Come on, teaching stressful. All right, so exercise. Do you find that people that were in that career were fit, or would find something that they would have to dive into to relieve that stress?
Most of the people I hung out with in the FBI, we exercised 3-4 days a week. We'd run 5, 10, 15 miles.
Okay.
Play racquetball, bike, do any kind of exercise, and that kind of alleviates the stress.
So can you tell me about a moment of failure that you've experienced in your career and how it affected you?
Yeah, in fact, it's a current case now called Kristen Smart. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She was kidnapped about 20 years ago.
Walk me through it.
And I think it was 1995. She was came up missing out of Cal Poly, in California.
All right.
And they asked me to come into the case about 3 or 4 years after the murder to give it a second look from a behavioral analyst viewpoint.
Okay.
Put my heart and soul into that case. And we never found her. And never was able to, arrest the suspect.
But you had suspects.
Yes. In fact, I think just last year he was arrested for her murder.
Oh, did they use the information that you had helped provide to build the case?
I think so. I'm not sure.
So that's got to give at least a sense of closure, right?
Yeah, but it's like, I don't like losing.
I understand.
Because if you're a good loser, then you're a loser.
So is that being competitive, do you think is kind of part of the nature of this job?
Well, it's part of my nature. I don't know if I can speak for other agents, but I like to win.
Well, tell me what your proudest moment or biggest success is.
I think my biggest moment was there was a gang of white supremacists in Lancaster, California. There was 50 of them to the gang called Nazi Lowriders.
Okay.
And I was able to arrest 39 of them.
Wow.
Out of 50, and they all went to jail. But the moment that I cherished most was they overran the neighborhood out there. And so after the case was all completed, Larry Piggies and I went out just to walk the neighborhood to see what it was like. And the lady walked out and says, "You're those FBI agents that cleaned this neighborhood up, aren't you?" I said, "Yes." She said, "I just want to thank you.
Aw,
You did a marvelous thing." That one thank you went further than anything else I've done, because you stepped out and I made a positive contribution to the community.
I hope you enjoyed this sneak peek into our character database. To hear the full uncut interview, join our community at thesuccessfulscreenwriter.com. Listen, our character database is amazing and there is nothing else out there like it. This contains interviews with individuals in unique professions such as CIA officers, FBI agents, hackers, con artists, and more, all for you to use as research for your next big scripts. Go to thesuccessfulscreenwriter.com and sign up.